Hello.
Hi,
Hello,
Cheryl.
everybody. Welcome back to Natural Connection with the Shaman. I'm your host, Shaman Odin Greywolf, with my co host, Jamie Jette. And we're here live today to talk. It's going to be kind of a conglomerate. I put human design and are we wearing someone else's clothes, but just kind of as an underlying tone. I have some things. Jamie Jette is studying a new human. Well, why don't I'll just let her tell you about it. You tell me about it.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for supporting this channel. And human design got turned. A friend gifted Bob and I a read, if you will, and I thought it was kind of intriguing. And so then I was able to do some classes for free. And a girl caught me on the first line that said, her mission is to help you remember who you are before someone told you who to be.
Mm.
I was it. I was like, yeah, I'm there. I'm the rebel. I want to be me. So anyway, the more I learned, the more, well, the just in a few, it's about, so far it's been about 20 hours, but there's a lot more convoluted. It works along with Richard Rudd's The Gene Keys. And so that anybody who's even been introduced to that 2-inch book, it's super, super deep. And I mean, you can only, it's like eating an elephant. Literally, it's one bite at a time. So what they find is they've turned it into three different things: your type, your archetype, what motivates you, and then that is your identity. And wow, because I'm able to do my friends, and I'm not charging right now. Eventually, I'm going to do it as a side business, but I was just like, oh my gosh, that's why they are like this, and that's why they are like this. We're all human. We get it. But just like all the flowers in the garden, there are daffodils and roses and orchids. And it's so, I really narrowed it down for me. And I was so totally excited. So I've done about 18 charts. And
Wow.
I'm actually, I'm not sharing with everybody what I'm reading about their chart because I really, my my vision is to help them see and to navigate how they make decisions, how they function in the world. It could, whether it's business, whether it's their job, or even with their relationship with their friends. So I'm having a hoot. I love
Um,
it.
that sounds really interesting. And it's I was asking about your human design this week because I believe something. So I believe whatever you're studying, because we're in connection as friends and family. That's why I've been receiving signs. Just kind of like what were we talking about this morning in the whatever we were talking about in the pregame, it was right in alignment with everything. Oh, the law of oneness, how our thoughts all connect together. We're all like one divine hive mind. I say hive mind, but that's just because what I hear about it. But it's interesting because this week, like what I'm doing with the Goetia is I'm going through all of our unconscious blocks, right? And this basically started when they were calling me. And what was going on at that time is before I was going back into therapy to find out if there was anything needed to take care of, people around me were having very difficult times. There was a lot of chaos and disorder. So what I found was the law of oneness. How do we fix our environment? Well, we go within, right? We figure it out within. And as I've been going along with this, they show me significant signs, and then it ripples out into our universe. As I work through the Goetia, I see people that were really in chaotic energy start to change. I see immaturity in others become mature. And why? Because it's coming through me as well. I'm teaching myself these same principles. So this week, I had right away, as soon as I did La Bolas, right? It was basically about showing the unifying force of love, right? So right away, I started getting messages from the Palladians, signs like Seven Sisters, and it would come right as I was getting some kind of download where I just had this crazy urge to write something or research something as I'm going to bed. And then I started researching that, and then I got significant answers. And then, yes, the other day I was doing Uber, and as I was Ubering, I got these signs from the Goetia Belial, who was out of order, but he taught me about the Quilaf or Clufoth, right? So the reason I was asking about human design is because the Clufoth, even though in occult practices they say it's like this very demonic practice, all it really is showing us as we go through spiritual transformations in life, places we can get stuck in. Because we do. Are we wearing other people's clothes? Our environment, just as we ripple effect on the outer world, so too does the outer world ripple effect on us. And if we get stuck in certain shadow or toxic traits, this Quilaf, the tree of death, shows which planet you need to work with. So right away, I learned that these planets, when you need to figure out which planet you got to work with, you go to your birth chart. How is that planet placed in your chart? And it unlocks a key to a door that is what will help you. So, with all that said, that's kind of why I was asking about the human design. So, I know it's kind of based in astrology as well.
Oh, yes. I have your chart right here.
All right.
You can't see it very well because it's just in black and white, but all of this is your personality, and it's really interesting. All of these are the signs of the planet, John, which I thought was kind of cool. And then yet you're, because of your design and where the stars and your planets and everything and the time of birth and the location, it also has the planets. So there's all kinds of, I mean, that's why I'm not reading anyone's chart until I graduate, which will probably be next April, May, because I'm taking the course. But it is so much fun. So drum roll, please. Do you want it? There's four, actually five, four different types. There's a manifesting generator, a generator, a a projector, and then a reflector.
Okay.
And you are a projector. You see things differently than I do. I'm a generator. Bob's a generator. But you see life through a different lens, which was kind of fun. Because when I read your chart, I was like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. Yeah, it's really intriguing. It is like astrology, but it's for your own design. And it gives you, once you learn, I mean, it has all these nine pillars of our body, just like it is with the chakras, but it also helps where you're really strong in certain aspects of your pillars and where you are reflecting off of others. So with human design, it helps when you work with your coach, you can work on, okay, so I need to be and bring myself around somebody who help bridge whatever it is that doesn't belong to me, and I don't need to absorb their business. So yeah, I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is so much fun. I told Bobby, I said, I really, this is something I could do now until I'm like 90.
Well, you know what? That sounds a lot like the wisdom of the Enneagram, and I worked through that workbook. Actually, I do my best work when I have a book, and then I also order the workbook that goes with it. And I did that a few years ago, the nine different personality types. And it was pretty significant. You're like, wow, you know. And that one didn't really go. Go ahead.
And it didn't fit me either. All my friends, I've been gifted CDs, and they keep wanting me to go to these big weeks. And I says no, because then when I'm in meetings with somebody, oh, you're a this and you're a that. I'm like, wow. I found with Enneagram, they compartmentalized me, and it was like limiting. And I said, I'm not living in a box. I'm not living because you think I'm an 8 and a 6, or I said, oh, I really, it was like nails on a chalkboard for me, because I was like, I know, and there's thousands, and oh my gosh, my friends that are really into Enneagram, they're steeped in it. But I said, no, it it's not. It's like learning Greek, and I'm Italian. I want to learn Italian. I'm comfortable. So thank you for responding to everybody, because I can't. Every time I touch a comment, my screen goes bye bye.
Yeah,
So
it just started the Q&A thing again, and I tried to touch it and it went off on it too. But yeah, the Enneagram too, I wasn't kind of, when I worked through it, it was like you're the peacemaker. And, you know, although I followed the book, instinctively, I just didn't want to be the peacemaker in everyone's reality, because I have that ability to bring peace by being able to understand both sides of anyone's argument.
and
But
let me stop right there, because right here, the very first paragraph, it says, you are a projector, a unique type in the human design system. Unlike the continuous energy beings, such as my generator and manifesting generation, you come with a deeply penetrating and focused aura. This special quality provides you with an unmatched ability to see into the heart of systems, processes, and people, often noticing detail and nuances that others might miss. That is in the first paragraph.
right. And that's me in a nutshell. Like, the reason I mentioned going back to therapy, one of the reasons why is because I was like, you know what? I think I was misdiagnosed all my life. I think I might be autistic, because I do. I pay attention to details like you wouldn't believe. And that can be both a blessing and a curse. And sometimes you're like, whoa, you see things way ahead of time. And so although it's good to see into the heart of both sides that are in an argument, sometimes when you get recognized as that, people just come to trauma dump all of their shit on you. And it's like, well, I'm good at this, but it's not my path of choice. So I kind of ditched the Enneagram and I started looking through other things. But it's interesting how you've got the Bose and Joaquin, or Jachin, black and white, like on the High Priestess Tower on your human design. It has the black and white. I remember Bob asked, what does that stand for? It stands for Bose and Jachin, or the darkness and the light,
Mm.
which mainly seems the pillars at the entrance of Solomon's temple.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting about that. So it shows both shadow aspects and lights on that human design, huh?
Right, it sure does. And it's also really interesting. And we've talked about this before, and a lot of people are waking up, and they're realizing that we are under a birth, a new birth, a new world. You see it everywhere you go, when you hear or you're listening, you pay attention. And I think a lot of this, it's amazing how much all this information is coming here, because it's something that we need. We need these tools to move into this faster mental oneness, if you will. It's all the collective. And you shared something the other day, something, and right away it was the fractals. And it was all the fractals. And I keep it over and over again, because we've been watching the near death experiences. 90% of the people from these programs keep talking about each one is my light. All of a sudden, I didn't see any images, but then all of a sudden, all these different fractals came together, and then I knew I was part of the fractal of this, all this enormous oneness. And I thought, wow, that is super easy. Then you know that you're not separate. Then you know that it's, and someone else said something about the orchestra of souls. Well, if we are each one a note in this frequency, can you imagine when all of it, and you know, the notes play at their own rhythm and just flow as opposed to the static. It's unbelievable how all these tools are coming up, you know, like the gene keys, discovering our DNA and these human design. I mean, people really are getting tuned into some of these messages. And I'm going to say, I'm holding my apron open and just fill me with all the information so I can help introduce new ideas and maybe some new practices in all of our spiritual room.
Yeah. Well, what you just talked about is the first chapter of this 12 laws of the universe, the divine oneness. You were saying it and we are raising, if you listen around, right? Our music is talking more and more about raising consciousness, spiritual evolution. Everywhere you go, people are on a spiritual uprise because as we work through this, it is raising the earth that we live on in a higher vibration. And the second chapter in this book is the law of vibration. But it talks about how would you behave if you really knew that you are not separate from the lives of your friends, colleagues, and every being that ever existed. Divine oneness unites us all. What can we do to raise our vibrations while raising others, right? And the answer to this was be mindful of your thoughts, actions, and behaviors because they send waves throughout the universe we are all connected to. So you think about that, and it made me think about when did the first person here in America start to raise the vibration? It had to obviously before American settlers came here from Britain. This earth, this land was on a very unity based type of system because the Native Americans were in tune with their land. Yes, they fought and killed each other over crops and stuff, but that was also kind of part of the hunt. All life, all animals that existed here also hunted each other to eat and live. But they didn't, they honored each other. They even honored their enemies and they lived in harmony with this land. But then here comes American settlers from Britain and they start shooting their guns and making their own laws here. But something had came back to America and brought this law of vibration back into being. And then look at where we are now, where we are at such a good time, where our music, our children are being raised under the, I'll never forget this. My little brother, um, he was really happy the day that his son told him, "Hey, Dad, look, Spirit brought this." It was, I don't remember what happened, and he said, to be in a time where my son tells me, "Look, at Spirit has brought this gift to us," it just made him feel good. It really is a good feeling. And that's all we can do is just keep working through ourselves, raising our vibration to hopes to do it to others, so others can see the light as well.
Right. I agree. I think it's really interesting too. Everything, there's an old saying that's been in our house: the truth always reveals itself. The truth is a law. It's a law. And
Yeah.
whether it's 10 minutes, 10 months, or 10 years, it reveals. And so I think it's really interesting now, all of that mesmeric um, um, saying that, oh, they were all dressed pretty with their little bonnets and they had these big spreads. And And someone said, "Are you kidding? Those guys landed on the shore on Thanksgiving, and he barely made it here. It's all scurvy. They were so sick, and the indigenous people came and helped them." But I find it interesting. Guess what? All of a sudden, the truth prevailed. I don't care how you brush it under the rug. You either are going to trip or you're going to choke on it.
Yeah.
So I really think it's and what reminded me is when you said the settlers came. Sorry, we got because Thanksgiving is in a couple days. Um, it's a part of that somehow over on that part of the planet. They believed in ownership.
Yeah.
And the indigenous people, that was not, and it's still one word that is not part of their vocabulary. They knew that they were of the air and the land and fire, and it was all about the stars. They knew that they were one with everything. So when you have an attachment, like we talked about a few weeks ago, what does it do? An attachment holds on in a grip. And it's like, oh my gosh. And you can feel the energy as I'm gripping my hand, or try it, grip your own hand. But the minute you let go and you have no ownership, there's such a flow and a rhythm. But to me, I thought, well, somehow it must have some drank the water over there. I don't know. And I'm sure there's some kind of history book as to why they thought there was ownership. Maybe it comes from Greek mythology. Maybe it comes from Atlantis. Somehow something went awry. But when they came here, the indigenous people still have not let go of that, in that we own nothing. We
Yeah.
are ambassadors, if you will, of this beautiful planet. I mean, and I know that goes on to another conversation about the galactic beings that we don't see, but it's now front and center. It's on our phones, it's in our minds, it's on the radio. All of a sudden, little blippets are coming up. And so um, uh, they're wanting to come and help us, is what my belief is. But if your viewers really hold tight and remember who they are, and I think that's why there's a lot of light workers, like all of us are pulling together, like that magnetic field. We're pulling together because we know we want that radiant truth to be known. And the truth is, we all are part of the one.
Right. Right. I did years ago when I was in college, I did study where the monetary system and ownership came from. And it traced back to the Vikings. Uh, and not so much as the Vikings right away. It was the Vikings settled in what they called Anglo-Saxon, which is mid-Europe, right? And they didn't want to travel no more. They'd traveled. They were travelers, and they would go everywhere, sometimes raiding, sometimes pillaging, sometimes just uniting and understanding the similarities between beliefs. But when they got to the middle of Anglo-Saxon, this is where the monetary gain actually started. The Vikings started printing coin. And with that coin came ownership. And then with that ownership, that's when things were being put into like work and slavery and things like this. And I don't remember too much. That's about as much as I remember the details of it. But that is why Europe became such a big part of the New World, because they said, this is where we settle. This is going to be our land. Nobody could come through here unless they use our coin. They can't buy our crops or anything unless they have our coins. Yeah, pretty trippy. So this thing about the Quilaf that came up, I'm studying a lot of Solomon's magic, right? That all comes basically through this book, the Lemmageddon, right? But to understand the Lemmageddon, which is Solomon's teachings, it has so many books. I've been through so much of my life just trying to understand all of these grimoires and teachings and sigils and symbols. But this one makes the most sense. The tree of death is like working through problems that we get stuck on. So, like, number one, have you ever witnessed somebody with spiritual psychosis? or poorly integrated awakening symptoms, God complexes, martyrdom, or self sacrifice. If that's the case, then they're stuck in level one of spiritual psychosis, and that's their Pluto. They're going through a transformation. So, this is funny because it's usually what you see on people who are just waking up. They're just waking up all of a sudden. Like, I'm just going to use an instance from my book. All of a sudden, the sun doesn't only rise in the east anymore, it rises southeast to northeast, depending on the time of year it is, and east only once one period of time in the year, right? So you're like, no way, this is not something, the world is all different. Like, your whole world gets turned upside down. That's Pluto. So if you're stuck in the spiritual psychosis of awakening, you would look at Pluto in your birth chart and see what it's doing, what it's interacting with, what are the aspects, what's it connected to. This is why when I do birth chart readings, like, it's very intricate and detailed, and it usually takes a lot of time because I go into these depths of like, well, no, it's not just your Pluto's here in Libra and you're good at this, that, and the other. I have to understand what that makes, what it's aligned with, what it's working with. So, number one is spiritual psychosis. That is Pluto. Number two is when you start learning about the cosmos. But number two, shadow traits are intellectual egoism. Like, when you know everything, right? Like, I know all, I'm in the gnosis. And then there's collective delusions. This right here can actually, step two of spiritual awakening. Collective delusions can be very hard to understand. Like, you think that you're part of a collective, but then if it never really integrates into life, right? It's a delusion, rather, where when you are in a collective and everything seems to harmonize, that is collective oneness. And then this throws you into thought loops. This is where you see somebody, every time you see them, they're on the same repeated pattern, or they are stuck on repeated loops of sadness and trauma, or victim consciousness keeps playing over and over and over. This is level two. And then the third psychosis of level two is propaganda. They think that everything is, propaganda, all the news, media, war, crimes, and they're feeding into it. So it's really interesting how we find these things in the occult, right? And I kind of look at it like this. Well, I understand now why they call this demon practices or devil worship, because it breaks the societal structure of owner slave, right? So when you start realizing that these satanic beliefs are the keys that they use to enforce you into slavery, whether it be mental or whatever, this way you start studying those things. Never fear them, because why? It brings you back to your human design, or the tree of life, the Sephiroth, which would be the 10 emanations of God, starting from the bottom, working your way up the tree of life to the crown. So it's pretty interesting. I really get into the darkness of the occult because I find it has nothing to do with evil. I find evil being a construct of ignorance. If you're ignorant, you're angry. If you're angry, you want to harm others. If you want to harm others, you're living in poverty mindset. But if you become aware of these ignorances, this is the key to enlightenment. This is how you get back on track.
Yeah, yeah. And I think too, it's important is when we are in the light. If you are in the light, you wouldn't know it's light if we never had the darkness.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds difficult for some, perhaps, but when you stop and think about it, it is almost the yin and yang. It's the balance. It's the other side of the coin. It it is what is necessary, you know, for one's soul's growth and evolution. I believe that anyway.
And you know what? That brings me to the 11th sphere on the tree of death is how I even found this information. The Goetia Belial. It came to me on a license plate, and I'm like, wait a minute, this doesn't always happen, right? So I took note that I saw Belial. Well, the 11th emanation of the tree of death, after we work through all of these 10 shadow traits, you find out that you become more independent, more morally aware, you're responsible for your own energy, and your ego has died. So, not that an ego is negative because we need it for everything. My name is this. This is a notebook. This is a phone. You are Jamie Jette. We do this. That's ego, but there is healthy ego as well. When the ego dies, is these things like I know everything, or spiritual fixation and narcissism, Venus, number 7, where we're performing just for glamour, for our own vanity, right? These are the shadow traits that we all go through. It's funny because I remember going through it. You can't see it in others unless you've been there. Like you're like, oh my God, how embarrassing. This is me. This is me. And it's like the universe does this to remind us, hey, stop judging, don't judge, kill your ego, because you were there. You were right there before you became aware. Like what happened in my case is I talk about all the time. I went through a nervous breakdown in my life where life just got ugly, right? So coming back through that, trying to raise my awareness, I remember the first time I started YouTube, it was straight out of ego and narcissism. I was better than others. I knew more, and listen to me. And these things we all had to work through. And we get to the end and we're like, okay, so that's why I know how to give the medicine. So when people ask, like, how do you know how to give the medicine? Well, because I was there, I was poisoned myself and I had to cure it myself.
Wow.
It's pretty
Wow.
interesting.
That's beautiful. That is beautiful. I have a question. Do you provide a service? I know we're friends, and I mean, uh, 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 this sounds really crazy, but I, we all have our planets. I know that it's going to help me with this human design, but with what you do, like with these different shadows, how do you help somebody? Do you have a service that you can people can schedule with you weekly, or is it can they schedule with you monthly? Because I think it's sounds like a one-on-one where you can. Do you provide the service? And I'm just like in La La Land right now. I had no idea.
Um, it's holidays, so obviously not right now, but I am working on getting that set up
Okay,
because
okay.
it
So I
does.
didn't just throw. I just was like, I got to get this out now. You know how we're all so busy, and if I don't want to forget. So that I just got that. It would be nice if I could call you up and say, "Wow, okay, so I must be on number 8 of the shadow tree. What the hell?"
Well, see, and that's the beauty of it, because like there's only so much that here's what a service could be, because we're friends. As I'm going through this, I'll give you a copy of the tree and what stages and what levels they are, right? And then who's more honest with ourselves? If we are really honest with ourselves. So you read through these levels and you're like, well, I'll admit, I am right there under nihilism or rationalistic or rationalizing abuse is another step. And then
Oh,
so
that
you
already.
start marking these off. And then once I give you that those descriptions, I'll know what planet to look at. And then I have your birth chart here and I could go through and understand why. Like I said, I've been hit with this a lot lately. What services do I I give, and I have a lot, but they're so intricately detailed that they take so much time. And
Right,
I
right, so
think,
that's what I'm saying, just little bits, each week, even if it's 30 minutes each week, because I know there's only so many hours in the day, but I really think it, has value because there's so many I'm telling myself there's so many, um, people that are hearing something and they don't know what it is. Just like back in 2011 when I stood up and looked at that man after 26 years of marriage, I said, I'm done. I
yeah,
don't know what I'm supposed to do. I have no idea. And of course, he still thinks I've, joined a cult or wackadoodle. And I'm like, no, this is bigger than being a wife stuck here in Southern Highlands. This is big. Something is calling my heart. So I'm telling myself, a lot of your viewers, John, they even if they're not doing it, they know someone. Oh my gosh, I have a friend who really needs that.
yeah.
So yeah,
No, I like when I had my shop, it was really easy to do that. What I'm trying to get to is a place where I can have an office or a shop, right? A place where there's a shop and have these work groups like I used to do at the Reiki shop. We would have workshops together. We would have days where we just discuss topics that we were going over, what the energy is like. So once I get myself in an establishment like that, it's so much easier to offer services because up until
okay,
that point, yeah,
okay, fair enough. But I was just like, wait, maybe because there's I mean, like I keep saying, Bob just says we're all walking each other home. But wouldn't it be nice if we all didn't have to get hit by the 2x4s or trip over the big boulders,
right,
Wouldn't it be nice if the people that have the information and maybe share some fodder for someone to think about? Because if we are one mind and we tap into something, or we are one mind and somebody bumps and you have that martyr glue playing. What do you think that needle has done for 30, 40 years? It has a hell of a groove. So it would be nice to for the collective if something could take and bump that damn needle out of that loop and give us food, give us fodder is what I call it, to think about, hey, and then I'm telling myself somewhere, somehow, it will cross my thought, and then I can share it, and it will cross another person's thought.
well, you know what I can do since you mentioned it like that? I was thinking about this as well, making a video, just a really short one here on this channel, and describing the 11 layers of the shadow that need to be dealt with. This way, they can listen to that video and they'll be like, oh, I'm on self doubt. So that would be level 3. I need to work with Saturn. Then we can go from somewhere because that's really easy to do. Once the person knows where their level is, and they ask me like, hey, I happen to be on level 3 with Saturn, and what the thing was, whether it was a savior complex or not, or I laugh. I want my viewers to know this too. When you see me laughing at something like savior complex, I am laughing at myself. I'm laughing at myself because I remember a time when I was like, I am the savior of mankind. It's just hilarious, you know. So I'm not laughing at you, and I'm sorry if it appears that way. I'm so laughing at the time in my life when I was behaving in these levels, you know. So that's how you can tell where I've been through in life. You'll see me laughing about it. But once we know, like, okay, I have a savior complex, and that means that your Jupiter, you're at level 4, your Jupiter needs to be worked with. There's probably something in your birth chart that will describe that. I'm really good at dissecting a birth chart down into little chunks that are so impactful that just fine tuning that one area can turn a leaf in your life. So I'll make a video. I'll describe all of those on there. Yeah. I'll be
I
the
think
savior.
you're hilarious.
You know, I laugh.
Chart, or where did you get your chart from? So can you share that link in your comments? Because I keep trying to pull it up, but I would like to be able to print it out just to kind of visually look at it.
Yeah, I have a image of it,
Oh,
and it
well?
took an image. You're talking an image of the chart?
Yeah, yeah, you posted it last night or yesterday.
Oh, well, that doesn't really describe like what sphere is what. That all comes from one of these many books over here on the shelf. But then I
Okay.
found images online once I started researching through the books. And I'll send you one of those as well. That way it's a lot easier to go through and just dissect it. And then
Well,
when we
I,
overlay this tree of life, um,
mhm,
working with the Kabbalah, like the Sephiroth or whatever, there are layers on the body. So once you notice like this, what I'm touching right here would be level 3, right? Level 3 is Saturn. You would know that Saturn is in charge of this meridian system in your body. So if you needed to like do qigong work or chi work, you would meditate on this level, this area of your body until you feel. If you're a practicer of qigong or you've ever worked with tai chi or any chi energy, you'll feel where stuck energy is. Reiki healers, what I used to do is find that stuck energy in a person, break it up, and then disperse it. So it's kind of like doing the qigong for them. But once you overlay this on your body, you have a map of where you could use work on.
okay.
Yeah,
Wow, thank you.
of
And that
course.
didn't cost me anything today. Thank you.
That was what?
I said, and that was free and it didn't cost me a darn thing today. Thank you.
That's right. Yeah. And Alexander the Ganja Shaman says balance is key. Good to see you in here, man. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, balance. You know, that's why they call these areas, they call these the keys. All of the lesser keys of Solomon are talking about the jinn or the Goetia, demonic entities or shadow traits. If you were to study Sigmund Freud or Jung, especially Jung, Jung went through the same process, the 72 Goetia. He recognized there were parts of his unconscious mind and he named them for each one that would come. Like this week, we're working with Glacia La Bolas, and he would conjure up that unconscious trait in his mind, and then he would give that a name. And this is where all the Jung shadow consciousness books came from. So we're doing
Wow.
the same processes. It's something that's worked for generations through King Solomon, and you keep it going. It works.
The old ways are definitely coming back.
Yeah. And with power too. Now, of course, you can take all of these practices and the the magician's heart is the true identity of good or evil. Because you can take all of these practices and use them for greed, harm, battle magic, all kinds of negative things, but you'll never grow. And then I like to look at it like this is where you would come back next lifetime in a lesser situation than you are in this one. So use them the wrong way, and then you're the only one that's got to pay. So it's really up to you.
Yeah.
But our divine oneness is not just within, it's everything around us. So drink
Yeah.
responsibly.
Thoroughly, thoroughly
So
agree. Okay, so did
go
you
ahead.
pull any cards today?
Yeah, I did. I was just going to get into that. So it's funny, we were talking about divine oneness. We have Okasta divine masculine. And Okasta's message is clinging on to an expected outcome may be causing you mental anguish. The expectations you place on others and the ones you allow to be placed on yourself can hold you back. So, this is the old Cherokee tale about the two wolves inside of us, right? One is dark and one is light. One is evil and one is good, right? Which one wins? The one you feed the most. Well, in this story, his message is that we kind of give ourselves too high of standards. You know, we're expecting others to be good. So, in doing such, right? So, in doing such, anytime they make a mistake or a flaw, we deem them bad because we've put their expectations up here. Just so as make, why would we be doing that? Because we're allowing others to put expectations on us. So it's a really, this card really points out to stop allowing people to put pressure on you, because when they do put pressure on you, you then put it on everyone around you. So that was this card, Ocasta.
Yeah. So which wolf am I gonna feed? I like that. That is an easy vision for me to say, okay, because I have been working with fear. Again, it's that root that's the deepest one that's been there the longest since I was a little girl. And so I like that. I'm gonna say, okay, Jamie, which wolf are you feeding?
Yeah.
Hmm,
And then the
very
answer to that riddle is the one that wins is exactly the one you feed the most. And we
well,
all feed fear, you know. Fear comes in so many different ways. It can
yeah,
come fear of expectations, fear of bodily harm, fear of being a failure, you know. Fear is a normal part of life, but it's how we handle it that makes the difference. Because,
yeah.
you know,
It's kind of fun. So you just pulled the one card.
I pulled that and then I was going to pull some tarot off of that. So, with that in mind, which wolf do you feed? What expectations are we putting on others, and are we allowing others to put on us? We've got the Truth of Swords and Lover's card. This is about choices, believe it or not. And the secret of this card is to realize that although these two are in love, they are both individuals sharing a uniting force in between them. So if you
Nice.
ever pull the Lover's card, see that in that image. Helps you understand things a little more. So, what do we have for the viewers? So, you've been trying to get away with something without being seen. There's sneaky energy on the table. This may have to do with something in society that you're trying to keep private. The message of this card is no matter how much you try to keep something private, there's always someone in the background running to tell the tale. Oh, here we go with starting a stable grounds. So now that everything is out on the table in this reading, you've been holding these expectations in secretly about this private affair. But what's really going on is you're building a solid ground to start fresh.
Aho.
Oh. And let's see what the final. You can trust in this union. Whatever you are creating, you don't have to hide it anymore. This person is reliable. And then we've got to back it up. Working together is what will make. It's funny because I stop as I'm reading this because it's everything that I wrote in here this morning. It's literally all of the today's energies. Let me get to that really quick. Today is star card energy and strength card energy. Star card is shining a light that helps you navigate through life successfully. Your powers of self expression are at their highest. You feel in touch with universal energy that gives you hope. And then the strength card is have courage in your convictions. Be prepared to face any threat with determination. It's time to use mental and emotional strength through compassion rather than the look at me energy of the chariot card. So when this comes down to it, it's the message of today was Mars in the eighth house. Courage during this transformation. You may have an interest in taboos, risks, and deep connections with potential challenges related to impulsiveness. So, if you were dealing with any energy today that had to do with shared resources or contracts or working with others in relationships, today these cards are telling you everything will go fine. Oh, and look, we got the Empress under that. And the Magician under her. Total abundant nurture, creating from spirit.
You can't make this stuff up.
No, it just that's why sometimes when you catch me like doing a tarot reading and I'll just stop and I'll kind of giggle to myself. There's a whole plethora of signs that come in with that at that moment. That's what you're seeing.
Well, thanks for letting us take a peek.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's funny. Oh, that's funny.
So you
Well,
got yourself some cards this week too, didn't you?
I did. Bob and I went up to Oregon, and we stayed with my nephew and my niece. It was such a beautiful, beautiful visit. Hiked, and then we took Bob's daughter. We met her for lunch, and we just so happened to park in front of a Cosmo Expression place. Anyway, I went in there and I just somehow I said, I don't want all these I can get on Amazon. I want a deck of cards from the locals. Oh, I guess I had said the right thing because there were some beautiful, and I I don't know what part of my sign in human design is of that yet, but I'm like, so I tested it. Uh, Not when I got home. Sure enough, you cannot find these custom made cards by the local people from Portland, Seattle. They're not for sale on Amazon. So anyway, I still haven't even taken the plastic wrapper off because I think I want to wait and see what unfolds on Sunday. We're going to be doing visioning, which is a different kind of visioning. It's not vision boards, it's the visioning with a group of people that want to perhaps get the messages for 2026, even though there are a lot of us that have already been getting messages and downloads. And actually, it's almost like we've been able to pull the curtain back for 2026 in the next 8 years. We've been able to pull the curtain back and take a peek into that, which is to be. So that's a lot of fun. So anyway, I think I'm going to bring out um, my couple of decks because they're so beautiful, and all of this is just so amazing. If you have a heart that somehow you've been listening, I remember back in the 70s, we used to go to a little place called Inn of the Seventh Ray. That was back in 76, 77, in Topanga Canyon. And it was a little hippie place that served homemade wine, but they always had those specialty shops. So all of us know who are on this YouTube right now, we know that everything's now all of a sudden coming back into the pieces of the puzzle. That's why I like this. So tarot cards and oracle cards um, is just so beautiful. Their artwork, number one, and then when we all play that game, and again, it's like the telephone. When you pick up the telephone, what I'm seeing from my view is not what you're going to see from your living room, from your view. So I never saw that on that tarot card when you just said, and someone is always watching. I've never seen that guy before. So that was just a lot of fun
Yeah.
when what everyone's perception is.
Yeah. That painting, you know, those there's four cards in the tarot deck that don't have any description. They're open for interpretation. But with that one, it always reminds me the old alchemists, they weren't allowed to practice alchemy. It was considered only for women. So they had to meet in private, dressed as women, to discuss the alchemical topics. And there was always somebody running off with what they learned, you know, giving the teachings to the king or queen, or hey, they're doing alchemy over there.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, good stuff. Good times.
You know, when you were talking about visioning today, when I wrote down the date, I almost wrote 2027 like it was actually right now. So little things like that are letting me know that we are kind of dipping in. We're peeking behind the veil in 2027. It'd be interesting that when we get there to look back on this date, 11/25, 2025, and see what was going on.
Yeah, so that's why I invite, I'm sure a lot of them do, but some newbies like me, but even though I've been journaling for many years, it's always really good to put the date on it. And it's kind of, it helps you reflect and say, wow. And then it's almost as if you can say, wow, I've come a long way. I couldn't see it then, back in 2018 or even 2011. I didn't know. But now that I look back on those writings, it was like, wow, you have come a long way. Good for you for trusting and allowing. But it's really good for me because just to put the date on it. So it would be kind of interesting to reflect back on 11. And that's what's kind of fun about the Book of Faces, where it says, oh, you have a memory from 12 years ago. And you're like, wow.
Yeah,
So that's
it can, but I remember my old Facebook I had forever, and it's not the one I recently deleted. The one prior to that I had for many years. And it started every single day was a wake up. And I thought of to myself, this is just keeping me living in the past. Because it wasn't
oh,
like, yeah, and it was a repetitive loop. Every single day was more past memories or past this, and I could never get present. So I deleted that one, and I went completely non-digital for a couple of years. I mean, I made YouTube videos here and there, whenever I felt like it, but more or less I kind of learned to enjoy being present, which is it's not easy to come back out of when you're alone. You have all the time in the world to indulge in everything that your heart desires. You want to read a book, you've got all the time in the world to read the book because you're not on Book of Faces, you're not on Instagram, you're not really chasing down everything on YouTube. You're waking up when your body tells you to wake up, you're going to sleep when your body tells you to go to sleep, not a scheduled event. You live a little differently. You become in tune with who you are. And to be honest with you, that's how I feel. That's the answer I find to find your place in the universe. Because until you've actually did a cord cutting like that, you really don't know where your human design is. You're kind of just living off of everyone else's subliminal messages. We get influenced. Like there was a thing I saw the other day, a scientific practice. Um, a person in the elevator hands a warm cup of coffee to X amount of people. All of these people are going up to the same room to interview the same person who has a script. He's going to say the same exact lines, right? So that he gives X amount of people a warm cup of coffee and another X amount or Y amount of people an iced coffee. Do you know that everyone he gave the warm coffee to gave a good review on the interview, and everyone he gave the cold coffee to said not to even waste their time with the interviewer. So we get influenced by so much. If a little thing is like somebody handing you a warm or cold cup of coffee is going to either make you warm and open hearted or cold and distant, what else do you think this world is programming us to do? That's why I dive so deep into the shadow aspects of the occult is where have I been programmed that it doesn't fit? And I learned a lot of that by just being present, not allowing anyone to fill my schedule because what felt good to me? Where did I want to participate my energy in versus where was I being forced to? I learned a lot about myself in those few years.
Yeah. Well, thank goodness. I know it was a rough one. That's what a lot of these, my new teacher, she's saying is that what gives you pleasure? And I remember somebody else asked me, God, years ago, what would I pay to do?
Hmm,
That was I
exactly.
really, I just threw up. I knew the idea because I'm steeped into that. And she said, yeah, then I think you need to do this. Okay, so I did it, but now I don't want to like you said, we get stuck. I don't want to, I think it's number 2 that I wrote down on the, I don't want to get delusional because it feels safe and comfortable. And I'm like, oh, this is nice. Okay. But now I'm realizing, no, there's this and there's that. And you can't navigate this huge ship with just with this little steering wheel. You got all the moving parts and pieces. So when I look at my own life and I look at my friends' lives and my family's lives, it just seems to me that the more we expand our horizons and the more we learn all that we already are, watch out.
Yeah,
Watch out, because for me, I'm telling myself it's a lot of smooth sailing. And then we do navigate through the storms. That's just how this planet works. But yeah, it's good and very good.
I was looking at the highlight. I wish I could have clipped that for a highlight. What you just said, because that was beautiful. Oh, I said I wish I could have clipped that for a highlight. I looked too late though. What you just said was beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, because what
Well,
you said too about what would you pay to do, that's the important part. Because if you'll pay to do it, that means you really like it. Well, thank you for your time today, Jamie. I had a great time, and
thank you.
you gave me some great insights, and I'm really really appreciative of that. And thank you to everybody who came in. Alex, I don't know if you're still in the chat or not. And Cheryl, thank you guys for your time, and the others who came in and out.
They're
Welcome.
going to be speaking now, but please remember, tell your friends, and also push subscribe if you haven't, or share it with a friend and say, hey, I listened to a couple of these people that maybe one or two sentences made sense. Share it with your friends so they can subscribe and then hit the bell so that you get notifications, because we do this every week and we're just really, I mean, so is my husband and our friends really wanting to support John because he's done all the studies. He's the projector. Let him do that work and then share the information. So
Yeah,
thank you, everybody who's tuned in later or even at midnight tonight.
and going along with doing all the studies, one thing that I find really important: be okay with being a beginner or a novice. Because when we put the expectation of an expert or a master on what we're studying, we're putting way too much pressure on it. Like there are probably some occultists that would say, well, are you just learning about the Quillfoth, right? Well, yeah, I am. But guess what? I'm learning from an extra higher dimensional entity being, I'm not learning from a classroom where this is our regular scheduled weekly assignments, I learn everything. Every book I order or buy or read from has come to me by some divine intervention. Now, I would have never gotten this far if I had thought that I was the master. Spirit would have said, "Oh, you're the master? Well, I don't need to teach you anything." So be okay with being a beginner or a novice because you'll get farther.
Thank you for that reminder. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, Jamie. You tell Bob I said hello and thank you guys.
I
And
sure will.
I will see you next week if I don't see you sometime this week.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye bye. Bye, everybody. Thank you, Cheryl. Oh, there we go.